They told George it was just part of getting older. The cold hands, the tired steps, the quiet distance between him and the woman he's loved for 43 years. Normal after 60, the doctor said with a shrug. 3 months later, George was rushed to the ER. It looked like a heart attack, but it wasn't his heart. It was blocked blood vessels down there. No one had warned him that poor circulation doesn't just affect your legs or your chest, it affects your identity. It slowly, silently erodes the part of you that still wants to feel alive, connected, and capable of love. I'm Dr. James, and for over 30 years, I've helped men like George, men in their 60s, 70s, and beyond, reclaim their strength, their warmth, and their closeness. Aging isn't the problem. The real issue is what's been overlooked, and today I'll show you a small, simple step that could quietly change everything. Before we begin, tell me where you're watching from. Type your city in the comments below. If you're here because you care about your health, your confidence, or your relationship, then like this video, share it with someone you love, and subscribe for more heart-to-heart advice made just for you. Why so many men over 60 feel faded and don't know why. There's a moment that sneaks up on many men after 60. It doesn't announce itself loudly. It starts quietly with cold hands in the morning, a little more effort climbing stairs, less spark in the eyes when their partner reaches for them, and they chalk it up to age. But what if I told you it's not just age? What if those signs, feeling colder, weaker, more distant, aren't simply getting older, but the early whispers of something deeper, something more dangerous? The truth is, poor circulation is one of the most overlooked health issues in older adults. And for men especially, it's not just about stiff legs or slower walking. It's about something far more personal, your identity, your confidence, and how connected you feel to your own body. Let me explain. As we age, the inside walls of our blood vessels, called the endothelium, begin to stiffen. They don't expand like they used to. The body also produces less nitric oxide, the molecule that helps vessels relax and open. As a result, blood has a harder time reaching the small vessels, especially the ones in your hands, feet, brain, and yes, your most private areas. That means less oxygen, less warmth, less responsiveness. You may not notice it all at once. Maybe you feel a bit more tired. Maybe you're not in the mood like before. Maybe it takes longer to recover after doing something simple like gardening or walking the dog. And over time, that quiet decline chips away at more than just your energy. It starts to touch your sense of self. I remember Franklin, a 72-year-old former truck driver from Ohio. A quiet, strong man who'd been married to his wife Ellen for nearly 5 decades. He came into my office one fall afternoon and said something I'll never forget. "Doc, I don't feel like a man anymore." His blood pressure was okay. His heart sounded strong, but he looked tired. Not physically, but in his spirit. He told me he'd been pulling away from his wife, not because he didn't love her, but because he felt disconnected from his own body. Less present, less capable, less him. And he had no idea why. What was happening to Franklin wasn't rare. It's something I've seen again and again. Poor blood flow doesn't just slow your step. It clouds your mind, dulls your emotions, and dims the light inside of you. And when it affects the parts of you tied to closeness, warmth, and intimacy, it can make you feel like you're fading out of your own life. But here's what I want you to know. This isn't your fault, and it's not irreversible. Once we understand the root, once we see that this isn't about being old, but about supporting circulation, we can start to change the story. And sometimes, the first step is far simpler than you think. Why no one told you this before? Most men who walk into my office have already seen 3 or 4 doctors. They've had their hearts checked, their cholesterol measured, maybe even a stress test. And when they ask, "Doc, why do I feel so off?" they often hear the same thing. "Well, it's just age. Your labs look fine." But what if that answer is missing the most important part? You see, the traditional medical system is trained to look for big problems. Heart attack, stroke, disease you can see on a scan. If your heart is beating and your cholesterol is under control, most doctors stop asking questions. But here's what they're not trained to look at: the small vessels, the ones in your brain, your hands, your feet, and yes, your most intimate areas. Those tiny blood vessels are the first to suffer when circulation starts to decline. They don't show up on routine tests. You won't feel them closing at first, but over time they quietly shut down, cutting off the very blood flow your body depends on to feel warm, responsive, and alive. This is why so many men feel like they've lost something, but can't explain what, and no one is telling them why. I once had a patient named Leonard. He was 70, sharp-witted, loved jazz, and still took long walks every morning. But he came to me with a quiet concern. "Doc, I feel like I'm present in my life, but not in it. I'm with my wife, but I'm not really there." His doctors had told him everything looked normal, but Leonard was missing something. His lab work couldn't show nitric oxide. Now, this might sound like a fancy chemical, but it's actually one of the most vital substances in your body. Nitric oxide is what tells your blood vessels to open up. It's what allows blood to flow freely, oxygen to reach every corner, and signals to fire when you need them most, especially in moments of connection. Without enough nitric oxide, your vessels stiffen. Blood can't move easily. And when blood can't move, your body can't respond, not to your partner, not to your own desire, not even to the need for energy or focus. And here's the twist: nitric oxide naturally decreases with age. That drop is one of the most common but most ignored drivers of fatigue, cold limbs, and sexual decline in older adults. But instead of being taught how to protect it, most men are given a pill. Maybe one for blood pressure, maybe one for cholesterol, sometimes one for the bedroom. But none of those address the core issue. If your vessels can't expand, your body can't respond. That's why what I'm sharing with you today matters so much. Because for many men, it's not about needing more pills. It's about restoring the natural chemistry your body once produced on its own, and doing it gently, safely, and in a way that brings you back to life. And believe it or not, one of the tools to support that starts in the most unexpected place: your kitchen. Baking soda, more than just for cookies. Most people think of baking soda as something you use to make cookies rise, or maybe to freshen up the fridge. But tucked inside that little orange box is something quietly powerful, especially for older adults struggling with poor circulation, low energy, and fading intimacy. Now, let me be clear, baking soda is not a miracle cure. It's not magic. But when used the right way at the right time, it can be a gentle but effective ally for your body, helping to restore balance, improve blood flow, and unlock a sense of vitality that may feel long gone. Let me tell you about Raymond. He's 67, a retired high school coach from Nebraska. Big-hearted, no-nonsense kind of man. When he came to see me, he had already tried everything. Vitamins, supplements, expensive over-the-counter boosters, even a few mail-order remedies he was too embarrassed to name. "Doc," he said, "I just feel dulled out." Not sick, but not me. He wasn't looking for a quick fix. He was looking for a way to feel present again in his own skin, in his marriage, in his mornings. That's when I asked a question that made him raise an eyebrow. "Raymond, do you have baking soda in your kitchen?" He laughed. "Of course. Been there for years, never used it." What most people don't know is that baking soda, or sodium bicarbonate, plays a powerful role in regulating the body's internal pH, especially as we get older. As we age, many of us develop a condition called low-grade acidosis. It's subtle, but it means the body becomes just slightly too acidic due to diet, stress, medications, and reduced kidney function. This acidic environment causes vessels to constrict and reduces the oxygen carrying capacity of your blood. Over time, that means less circulation, more stiffness, more fatigue, and yes, less response where it matters most. A small daily dose of baking soda helps neutralize that acidity. It gently shifts the body toward a more balanced state, where blood vessels can relax, oxygen flows more freely, and energy levels begin to stabilize. Raymond started with just 1/4 teaspoon in a glass of water every morning on an empty stomach. That's it. Nothing dramatic. But after 3 weeks, he came back into my office with a look I hadn't seen before. "I'm sleeping better," he said. "My legs don't ache as much. And I don't know how else to say this, doc, there's a little more spark." Even Ellen noticed. It wasn't about performance. It was about presence, about feeling engaged again, not just in the bedroom, but in life. More energy, less stiffness, a quiet return of desire. Now, baking soda isn't for everyone, and we'll talk more about that in a moment. But for many men like Raymond, it's become a small, steady habit that gently shifts the body back toward balance. Because sometimes what we're missing isn't another pill. It's a way to help the body remember what it already knew how to heal, how to flow, and how to feel alive again. Why 1 teaspoon? Too many can land you in the ER. I wish I could tell you that every story with baking soda ends like Raymond's, but not all of them do. Take Martin, for example, a 70-year-old retired electrician from Georgia. Strong-willed, sharp, always fixing things around the house, always looking for something natural to stay in shape. He was the kind of man who never liked asking for help and certainly didn't want to depend on medications. When he heard about baking soda helping with blood flow, he jumped in with both feet, but he didn't ask how much was safe. He figured if a little works more, must work better, so he started taking 1 teaspoon in the morning and another at night. Within a week, Martin wasn't feeling stronger. He was bloated, dizzy, his heart was racing, and then one night he collapsed in the kitchen. His wife called 911. At the hospital, the doctors told him his blood pressure had spiked dangerously high and his electrolytes were completely out of balance. Turns out his kidneys, already under quiet stress from age, couldn't keep up with the sodium load. That's the part most people don't realize. Baking soda is powerful, but it works by altering your body's internal chemistry. It shifts your pH, your sodium levels, your fluid balance. And when you're in your 60s, 70s, or beyond, those systems don't rebound like they used to. Your body at 70 isn't your body at 30. It's wiser, more experienced, but it's also more sensitive, and it deserves a different kind of care. One of the biggest mistakes I see is assuming that natural means harmless, but that's not how biology works, especially later in life. Water is natural, but drink too much too fast and it can flood your system. Sunlight is natural, but overexposure can burn the skin. Baking soda is natural, but take too much too often, and it can cause serious trouble, especially if you have high blood pressure, kidney disease, heart conditions, or if you're on certain medications. That's because the sodium in baking soda doesn't just pass through your system, it stays. And if your kidneys can't flush it properly, it starts to build up, raising your blood pressure, stressing your heart, and throwing off the delicate electrolyte balance your body depends on. That's what happened to Martin. He meant well. He just didn't have the right guidance. And I see that all the time, men trying to feel better, trying to take control, but accidentally working against their bodies instead of with them. The good news is this kind of mistake is completely avoidable. With the right timing, the right dosage, and a little respect for how your body works at this stage of life, baking soda can be part of a safe, gentle path toward healing. But the moment we treat it like a shortcut, or worse, like a magic fix, we put everything we care about at risk. So before you reach for the box, pause. Let's talk about how to do it the right way, because your body's worth protecting, and healing should never come at the cost of your health. 1 small glass, 1 gentle start. By now you've heard the risks and the rewards. You've seen what baking soda can do when used right, and what can go wrong when it's not. So let's talk about how to do this safely, with intention, with care, and with the wisdom your body deserves. Here's where I always begin with my patients. Start small, go slow, listen closely. For generally healthy adults over 60 who are not on strict sodium-restricted diets and have no significant kidney or heart conditions, here's the safest place to begin: 1 or 4 teaspoons of baking soda. Stir it into 1 full glass of water, about 8 ounces. Drink it first thing in the morning on an empty stomach. Not after breakfast, not right before bed, not twice a day, just once. I know that seems simple, maybe even too small to matter. But when it comes to your internal chemistry, small is smart. Think of it like tuning a classic car. You don't slam the pedal or flood the engine. You make small, respectful adjustments because the system is valuable and sensitive. And at this stage of life, your body's no different. I remember Walter, a 74-year-old Navy veteran from Oregon. He came to me exhausted from trying every supplement his neighbor recommended. Nothing had worked. When we tried this protocol, a single quarter teaspoon each morning, nothing else, he wasn't expecting much. But 3 weeks later, he smiled and said, "Doc, I don't need an afternoon nap anymore. I feel like I've got a little rhythm back." It wasn't magic, it was gentle support, and it made a difference. Now here's one thing most people overlook: hydration. Baking soda works best when your body's well hydrated throughout the day. Why? Because good hydration helps your blood flow more freely, it supports your kidneys in filtering out excess sodium, and it allows oxygen to reach the muscles, brain, and sensitive tissues more efficiently. So don't just think of the baking soda itself as the solution. Think of it as part of a larger shift, a new rhythm of treating your body with steady respect. Drink water throughout the day. Keep a bottle nearby. Sip, don't gulp. And if you're taking blood pressure medications, heart pills, or have kidney issues, always check with your doctor first. This isn't about fear, it's about honoring your body's history, what it's carried, what it's endured, and what it still hopes to experience. You wouldn't pour oil into a vintage engine without reading the manual. So don't pour anything into your own system without knowing how it fits your unique story. Most men don't need drastic change. They need a place to begin. One small glass, one quiet habit, one signal to the body that says, "I'm listening now." And sometimes that's all it takes to begin feeling like yourself again. Lawrence was 76 when he first walked into my office, widowed for nearly a decade. He lived alone in a small house just outside of Cincinnati, did his own grocery shopping, watered his garden, but something inside him had started to dim. He told me, "I'm not sick, Doc. I just don't feel much anymore." He wasn't talking about pain. He meant presence. He felt invisible at the dinner table when his daughter visited. He didn't reach out to old friends. He'd lost the spark to laugh, to talk, to connect. There was no pill for that. We didn't talk about changing his life overnight. Instead, we talked about rhythm, about one small thing done every morning that could signal to his body and spirit that he still mattered. So he tried it. Just 1/4 teaspoon of baking soda and water, one small glass every morning. No pressure, no big expectations. The first week, nothing much. The second week, a little more warmth in his hands. By the third week, he said he was sleeping better. And by the fourth, something shifted. He called me after breakfast one day and said, "I had a full conversation with my neighbor today, and I actually wanted to." Then a few weeks later, in a quiet voice, he said something that stayed with me. "I didn't think I'd ever feel this kind of closeness again, but I do." Lawrence didn't need a miracle. He just needed something steady, something small enough not to overwhelm him, yet powerful enough to remind his body to come back to life. Healing doesn't always shout. Sometimes it whispers. Sometimes it looks like showing up for yourself again and again with a quiet act of care. And sometimes that's all it takes, to feel the light return one morning at a time. If you've made it this far, then you already understand something most people miss. Circulation doesn't just carry blood, it carries life. And after 60, that quiet decline in blood flow doesn't just affect your legs or your energy. It affects how connected you feel, how confidently you move through your day, how present you are with the people who love you. It can slowly pull you away from yourself until you barely recognize the man in the mirror. But now you know the truth. It's not just aging, it's chemistry. It's the small vessels, the missing nitric oxide, the quiet tension inside your system. And it's something you can support gently with a small habit, a single glass of water, a quarter teaspoon, a choice to show up for yourself once a day. You don't need to chase miracles. You don't need to do everything at once. You just need a beginning. Like Lawrence did, a man who thought life had already passed him by until he gave his body a second chance to respond. And slowly it did. So if you felt tired, disconnected, or quietly fading, you're not broken. You're not done. You're just waiting to be heard. There is still more life left to feel, and one small habit might be the first step back home to yourself. I'd love to hear from you. Which part of today's message resonated most with you? Was it the science, the story, or just the quiet reminder that you still matter? Type yes in the comments if you're ready to take back control of your health, one gentle step at a time. Your words might just encourage someone else to begin too. And if this message spoke to your heart, give it a thumbs up. Share it with someone you care about, and subscribe for more honest, hopeful health advice made for men like you men who still believe there's more life left to feel. We're in this together. Let's begin one morning, one habit,